everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be my first review back, and the first review I've done in a while since my very awkward review of The Old Man and the Sea, which keeps on garnering new exasperated comments. Anyways, the first book that I'm going to review while I'm back in my new sort of revitalization of this channel is actually a pretty unorthodox choice for me. It's unorthodox in two ways, for the fact that, first of all, it is a book in Danish, and secondly, that it is not a Danish book. Now try and sort of put those two things together in your comprehension. And if you don't still understand why that's unorthodox, let me just explain it to you. I am Danish, a Danish person. Hi, I mostly read in English because English is a better reading language. I just don't prefer Danish books. But I still try once in a while. If you can't read Danish, which most people can't, it says Det lille hus i den store skov. And it's by Ingalls Wilder. Now this is also translated directly into, the little house in the big woods, which the book is called in English, which is the language it was written in. And I never usually read English books in a translated language, Danish, because I despise most Danish translations. But in this case, I have the entire series, because my parents owned it before me, in Danish, and since they're such mood-giving books, and they're a bit older, and I always prefer older translations, I've actually gotten through these, at least like the first book. This is the first book in the sort of series that's generally considered The Little House on the Prairie. It's a very popular one. It's about settlers in, the sort of New America at the time, and I read this because it is winter. Okay, so that sounds like a very simplistic sort of explanation for why I read this book, but I read this book because, first of all, it's a classic and I want to get through this. I have a classics thing. But also just because these books are very sort of quaint. They don't have any big drama yet, at least not in the start, and they just sort of trudge through and describe this very simplistic and practical existence in great detail, but with a great sort of quiet mood to it as well. Now, when I read, I think a lot about aesthetics. Not in the fact that I'm going to be sitting in a chair with 5,000 candles around me and sort of puffing smoke out of my nose, no. I mean aesthetics in the fact that I can feel a mood coming. That's why I often listen with music or just at a certain time. And I read this in sort of the midst of winter here in cold Denmark, in front of the fireplace late at night, and it's a very good sort of mood-giving book for that. It describes sort of this young family and young Laura, of course, because it's mostly a true story, through her sort of tales. It smells so good. I love the smell of old books. But it has fine sort of illustrations as well, and just very greatly describes how this family lives in these woods during these sort of settler times. I've sort of already said it without really saying it, but I really adore this book. It's a bigger series that you can sort of chomp down on. I like that it's not just about character. I like sort of historical views on a certain time period that I'm curious about. But don't really know enough about, and just sort of seeing this through like a very, an innocent child's eyes, and just knowing that sort of the next books, which I've already started on, are going to get more sort of, I'm just going to see someone grow up. I had the same feelings in terms of reading the Anne of Green Gables books. Of course, those are kind of different, and I infinitely adore them, like, even more. But it's following a young girl like this, and just the language sets a mood, but still is descriptive and lovely. So I would recommend anybody who actively sort of loves these kinds of books to go out and read them. If you want, aesthetics, which I was babbling about 5 minutes ago, tips, I would say read it in the winter. I like to categorize my books into reading times, but it is sort of a book made for winter or an autumn, but you know, you can read it whenever you like. I've continued on reading the next book in the series, which it's mostly called after, you know, The Little House on the Prairie, and it just goes into even greater detail. And because you know that it's real, it just heightens sort of the feeling of being a voyeur. It's a weird word to use, but on these people's lives, and it's quaint, it's simple, it's not frustrating or big, it's just life. So that was my review. Very scrambly. If you want, again, I've asked this before, but like now that I'm back anew, if you want to give me any tips to what you would prefer to see in terms of a structure in my reviews, if you want anything, you know, specific, like pointed out, like, okay, you want like excerpts or favorite excerpt, favorite quote, anything from the book in terms of that, like, okay, books that are like this that you should also read. I've kind of done that, but something more structural, like how you want to see it structured, give me tips down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and any feedback you have, like constructive criticism, I'd love it, because that's how you develop and make your videos better. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!